Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. Okay, yeah, it's a Justin Bieber episode. Not a long or even unmanageable one, which was a pleasant surprise, but if it's not your thing, or you've heard the album and seen my review and just don't care, I can understand if you want to go anywhere else. I will say I'm a little bit surprised that Lana Del Rey didn't show up anywhere with even a single. I could have swore I saw something saying that she had some big streaming traction going into this week, but her buzz has honestly seemed to kind of evaporate pretty quickly off that album, like clouds dispersing into the atmosphere. But anyway, our top 10. And our new number 1. Yes, in the review of the album, I called it and on the pulse, but I'm not about to complain that much that it's here. Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon. Now, I'll talk more about the song later on. Mostly, I'm happy that Giveon got such a boost this year. It's been overdue. But this is here thanks to good sales, really strong streaming in YouTube, some solid radio pickups, and the fact that the top 10 is really weak and disruptible right now. With the maelstrom that is the next Lil Nas X single that's coming, I reckon this will not last at the very top, just saying it now. And that places Up by Cardi B in a bit of an odd space back to number 2. Streaming is up, sales are up, but radio actually started slipping this week. And if she wants to maintain momentum going into her album, that's not a great sign. In comparison, we've got Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic at number 3, which is consistent in all channels, but surging on the radio, where it could very well make up any margins and make a credible run, Lil Nas X or not. Then we got Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. Man, it seems like this song just vanished from popular conversation, even despite still being at number 4, but despite being on top of the radio, it is slowly declining. But then we have, once again, Save Your Tears and Blinding Lights by The Weeknd at number 5 and number 6, where the former leads in sales and streaming and the latter leads on the radio, but with Save Your Tears now getting a push in airplay, it could well pass Blinding Lights' decline. Then it takes us to Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby at number 7, where looking at the data, it seems kind of static, mostly because What's Next by Drake fell past it to number 8, where its streaming is starting to ebb a little bit, and while it is making a radio run, not really making up the difference. Then re-entering the top 10, again we have What You Know About Love by Pop Smoke at number 9. And this has been holding out for a while, making a slow and steady radio run, even if you can tell it's starting to trail off given that the radio is all it's got. And on that note, Mood by 24kGoldn featuring Ian Dior hit number 10. It's on a steady decline, mostly on radio. It's probably going to be gone soon, even if it gets a short spike of momentum thanks to the album release impacting the charts just next week. But you know, while we're in this territory, we gotta talk about our losers and dropouts. And in the latter category, for an album bomb week, there's just not that much of significance here beyond Still Trappin' with Lil Durk and the late King Von, and Throat Baby Go Baby by BRS Cash and all of its remixes, which even with those may just barely miss the year-end list. It's gonna come down to the margins there. But truth be told, I'm not even sure I would call our losers all that surprising, especially given with the expected continued drop-offs for Beer and Sunshine by Darius Rucker at 100, Real As It Gets by Lil Baby featuring ESTG at 69, and Lemon Pepper Freestyle by Drake and Rick Ross just free-falling at 56. Now most of the rest seem like they just took the album bomb hits and didn't have a lot of momentum otherwise. Sand in My Boots and Wasted on You by Morgan Wallen slid down to 96 and 77 respectively. Girl Like Me by the Black Eyed Peas and Shakira hit 89, thank God this is on its way out. You Got It by Vedo slid down to 88. Almost Maybes by Jordan Davis is tanking at 86. Bust It by Erica Banks fell down to 72 as the challenge seems to have evaporated on TikTok. And Monsters by All Time Low featuring Black Bear and Demi Lovato fell down to 70. I mean, to me, especially in 2021, I felt like this song overachieved anyway. Now, the only two songs that kind of surprised me that were losing was Damage by Her at 58, looks like the radio is rotating it out, and Streets by Doja Cat at 27, which has got a ton of streaming, but pretty much nothing else. But now we're on to the Justin Bieber show proper. No returns, and the only 2 gains came from him, Am with Anyone going up to 16, and Hold On rebounding 20. Funnily enough, neither Lonely nor Holy made comebacks, which I'm just fine with. And because he absolutely fell under the album bomb rules, the songs that fell below the top 40 and were neither the best or the worst this week are as follows: Somebody at 91, Love You Different with Beam at 84, Die For You with Dominic Fike at 81, Deserve You at 76, Too Much at 68, Off My Face at 64, and As I Am with Khalid at 43. Got all that? Okay, good. Because when we get to our new arrivals, we actually are not going to start with Justin Bieber. Number 94, Famous Friends by Chris Young and Kane Brown.
Back in Rutherford County, our crowd is second to none.
Okay, this is going to sound weird, but I'm not sure I get this song. Specifically, I'm not sure what emotion they're trying to go with this. Basically, it's a song where they reference people who are famous in their smaller towns growing up that would not be known in the bigger city, because when you go back to all those small towns, it's all about who you know, those people. But I gotta be real, that's just as true in a larger city, maybe even more so, just the scope is greater and there's a greater level of difficulty. And wait a minute, Davidson County contains Nashville. I don't see you're making your point here. Maybe if the actual song was better, I'd have more to work with, but the drums are really filmy, the guitar rollick doesn't have much punch, and I would argue Chris Young and Kane Brown have shockingly little vocal chemistry. Overall, it just feels like album filler, a collaboration for its own sake, and it doesn't add up to much of anything. And it's honestly kind of forgettable to boot. Next, number 87, Love By You by Justin Bieber featuring Burna Boy. My god, this feels so cynical. And I hate that it felt so automatically when I heard the weirdly inconsistent vocal positioning and the inclusion of Afrobeat and Burna Boy. I mean, hats off to him. This is his first charting song on the Hot 100. Not at all complaining about him making that breakthrough, but man, the song he's supporting is just not good at all. What bugs me is the presumptuousness of the entire track, showing Justin Bieber doing so much more to attract his significant other's attention, because all he would do otherwise is just wait around and hate himself until her love makes him feel better. I mean, I'll give him a point to acknowledging that this isn't ideal or healthy, but the single-minded neediness of the song, especially when paired alongside with this production, doesn't fit whatsoever, especially when Burna Boy's verse is nothing all that special to add more complexity. In other words, this song isn't good either. Let's move on. Number 82, Tombstone by Rod Wave.
Show you right the truest in the motherfucking game on my tombstone and bury me. By the river they will carry me.
Now for those of you who are curious, yes, I'm looking forward to covering Soulfly, but it is 19 songs. It will take a while to get through my schedule for the next On The Pulse episode on my main channel, but in the meantime, this is another Rod Wave track that is playing into his formula, but doing it a little bit better. I like the gentle guitar, and even if the percussion still feels a little clumsily blended, I appreciate that it lets Rod Wave's voice really breathe for some really pretty multi-tracking and a soulful gospel chorus slipping in behind him, which is a natural fit. Now, I'm not really wild about the content. I still think Rod Wave's next step should be adding a little bit more detail or complexity to his songs, or maybe just even a second verse, but I do appreciate the struggle he describes and how the pandemic really cut into his touring money, and if that means he has to go back to the streets, at least if he comes to an end there, he might find some sort of peace. He was that real. So yeah, it's bleak, but it's got the solemnity to fit the mood properly, and Rod Wave has the vocal gravitas to sell it. I still like Street Runner a little bit more, but this is pretty damn good too. Check it out. Next up, number 66, Ghost by Justin Bieber.
I settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than life.
This might be a controversial opinion, but outside of Anyone, this might be one of the best pop songs that Bieber has put out in a while, and it's arguably one of the best songs on Justice. Now, of course, there are qualifiers to that. The Youngblood reference reminds me a little bit too much of that 5 Seconds to Summer song, which is better than this. The lyrics as a whole still reflect some of that clinginess, this time for an ex that can't help but make me wonder if there's a Selena Gomez question left unanswered, and then just stuck with the feeling that if John Bellion had kept this song, it would have turned out a lot more interesting along the way if he cut it. But even if I get the feeling that even with that it's a pretty by-the-numbers pop song, I still think this is well executed. I like the keyboard line and the acoustics on the hook, the stuttering bassy patter of the groove and percussion. It's a nice modern facet to the traces of the 80s vibe, and even if Justin Bieber isn't a stellar presence on the song, he's more convincing in pop than in R&B, at least to me. It might be formula, but it's above average in that regard. I'll take it. Instead of number 62, Unstable by Justin Bieber featuring Kid LAROI.
Never judge me when I was unable to love myself, so trust myself.
Let me start by saying I get what this is trying to do. It's Justin Bieber trying to highlight how even at his worst moments where he was self-destructing and pushing everyone away, his wife stuck by him, and given the very spare, reverb-swallowed guitars, I get this approach. But I don't like this song, and it's for three main reasons. The first being that Justin Bieber just can't sell this. It feels weirdly inert from his vocal delivery coming out of him, not helped by the relative lack of detail in the lyrics and the abbreviated length of the song. But the line that jumped out at me more is on the hook, that his mark of instability is not being able to love or trust himself. It's a weird detail to include on a project like this, where you can tell just how much of this is image rehab, and it undercuts that sense of intimacy. Now granted, the other factor that undercuts the intimacy is Kid LAROI, who is doing his best braying Juice WRLD impression, and I've got no patience for it. He also can't sell the atmosphere beyond the raw basics. And really, that's the root issue. It feels like a very basic take on the complicated issues of mental health, and everyone sounds out of their depth as the result. Ergo, it's not good. Next, number 42, Headshot by Lil Tjay, Polo G, and Fivio.
Middle fingers to the government. Glock in his Louis pouch, nigga, I ain't tussling. Catfish, he don't really know who he fucking with. Ops in the message, grab Drake to rebuttal it.
I'll be real. There's a part of me that was trying to be excited about this, but that part of me was suffocated by the feeling that I will have heard pretty much exactly what these guys would have done together, especially if they're over drill production and they don't need to worry about any sort of hook. And yeah, that was exactly true with a lot of the content and all the gunslinging, and now Fivio Foreign is basically being carried on his ad-libs because he's not much of a rapper. But I otherwise think this could have worked. The strings backdrop has a good melodic foundation. Shame the bass swamps out more than it should, which becomes flagrantly obvious by Lil Tjay's verse. But you know what, that's just adjusting the mix and mastering this properly. As for the verses overall, I like how Lil Tjay threw in a little bit of melody behind his flow, make him seem a bit more distinctive. But the person I'm more disappointed with here is Polo G, mostly because without the maturity and added dimension to his gunplay, he's just not nearly as interesting as I know he can be. As a whole though, I mean, it's fine, it is what it is, but it feels like less than the sum of its parts. That's all I'm saying. And finally, at number 1, Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon.
I took my chick up to the north, yeah. Badass bitch. I get my light right from the source, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
This is one of those songs that I want to like more than I do. Cause on the surface, there's a decent amount to like. The blissed out, soulful vibe with the supple bass and guitars and some nice drum work. And both Daniel Caesar and Giveon are so comfortable with this sort of production, with Daniel Caesar coming off a breakup and finding some new love, and Giveon trying to lock down someone who has been there the entire time, and now he's fully realized it. Yeah, I prefer the sound a little bit more organic overall, and you can tell especially Giveon's vocals might be a bit too touched up, but that's a minor quibble. The major quibble is that it's all surrounded by Justin friggin' Bieber, who's too chirpy and processed to fit with any of this. He can't relax into the groove. Every time his hook comes back, it feels weirdly out of place, and he winds up being the worst part of his own song. He just does not sound as cool and relaxed as he thinks he does. I mean, remix this. Swap out Bieber for Anderson .Paak or Frank Ocean or Miguel, or hell, let's not even stick with the guys. Get Jhené Aiko or her on this. It would work so much better. As it is, parts of this connect. I'm happy Justin Bieber was the mechanism to get Giveon a #1 hit. I just wish Justin Bieber wasn't on that hit. And on that note, Justin Bieber winds up with both the worst songs of this week, with Unstable with Kid LAROI nabbing the worst, and Love by You with Burna Boy getting the dishonorable mention. But you know what, he also gets the honorable mention as well for Ghost, because the best of the week is going to Tombstone by Rodway, because right now, he's just not missing. Not sure he's got an album bomb on lock block anytime soon by checking the streaming numbers. We might be seeing a small competition between him and 24K Golden, and hopefully that keeps AJR out of the picture entirely, but we're gonna have to see. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse.